My name is Miss Diden, and I'm going to be your host today. This is the second time we're having this. Last year was amazing. Some people are wondering what Ladies First means. First of all, I must say it's so beautiful to see gentlemen in the crowd. Last year, I think we only had 2 men and 80 women. Gender balance was not working that day. And some of you are looking at me wondering why I have such a big voice. Yeah, it's what gets the money, the rent paid and everything. But please do come in. Make sure you get yourself some water, some drinks. We do have that. We have pen and paper on the table. Ladies First is all about empowering the females. Now that the ladies are officially taking over, I'm sure most of you have noticed that the ladies are now taking charge. They're taking leadership. And they're taking it very easily. Now the idea of Ladies First is how to get people like me and other young people or other more mature people to also learn how to step out of that shadow and take the lead. And let me tell you, there's nothing as good as being a leader, especially a woman. And these days, women are very important. We're going to start, and I have to remind you all that it is very beautiful that you have all made time to come here today. Ladies, I think we're the most important people on earth. Whether it's an animal, female animal, or us humans. Because without us, there's no future generation. Let's begin just with that. There's no generation. You know what I mean? We're the ones who carry the kids. All right, so if there are no women, I don't know if there'll be people in this world. No animals either. Now, we're going to begin with the first panel. And this panel is going to be talking about workplaces for women. Most of us have had so many issues when it comes to the workplace, be it harassment, be it the fear of taking charge or taking that step to be a leader in, a team leader in the office. And we're going to have a group of panelists who are going to be coming here and talking for the next 15 minutes about the workplaces for women. So I'd kindly request to have Eva Araduha, this is the Senior IT Manager of MTN Uganda, to please come forward. We also do have Humphrey, who, by the way, just got married the other day. Congratulations. Congratulations. And, of course, he's the founder and team leader of Reach a Hand Uganda. They are doing some amazing work, especially for the youth right here in Uganda. I'd also like to call another beautiful lady that I am proud to say I know and I have worked with. My God, they have amazing clothes. Jesus, Lord. She takes care of so many girls. And I'd like to call upon Ruth Bahika. She's the founder of Grace Villa. Please come on stage. And then finally, Proscovia Nabanja, Chief Operating Officer, Uganda National Oil Company. And our panel here is going to be talking about workplace for women. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence right here. Let's begin by having each of you maybe introduce yourselves to our crowd so that they can know who we're talking to. I'll begin to my right.
Thank you so much. A good morning, everyone. My name, like I've been introduced, I'm Proscovia Nabanja. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Uganda National Oil Company. Our company basically takes care of the state's commercial interests in the oil and gas sector. And my main role there is to ensure that we get value out of the oil and gas resources for the benefit of all Ugandans. Briefly, that's what I can say since we have 15 minutes, and I'll let the others introduce themselves. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, we need some energy in the room. My name's Humphrey Naimanya. I'm the team lead and founder of Reach a Hand Uganda. Reach a Hand is an empowered organization working for young people, and I'm proud to be here and also proudly to say that 80% of our staff are women that are working for us, meaning that you guys are driving this country crazy, and we're super proud of you. So yeah, we shall be sharing more. Thank you.
Alrighty, we do have another panelist.
Yeah. Thank you, Didan. My name's Ruth Kendeje Ndiabahika. I'm the founder of a home for girls called Grace Villa. Grace Villa is a sanctuary for orphans, abandoned and vulnerable children located in Kampala, Western Uganda. So basically, I have over 200 children praying for me right now as I sit here on this panel. So thank you very much.
And of course.
Hello, good morning. I'm called Eve Araduha. I work with MTN. I'm a senior manager in IT. And my role there is really to drive innovation. We manage the whole development life cycle from inception to design to implementation to usage. So that's really what I do in MTN.
Thank you very much. And those are our panelists for today. So we're going to go straight into it. And I'd like to begin with Proskovia. You're working with the Uganda National Oil Company. You know, it's always assumed it's a man's domain. Now, you being one of the ladies and being a top leader, how is the culture in the workplace, especially for women, and how can we change it?
That's a very pertinent question to me, and for the few discussions I've had around women working in a male-dominated environment, I must admit I've been one of those. I started my career back in 2000, starting off with the Ministry of Energy, and for the 18 years I've been in service, I've worked alongside men. Yes. And notably, I was the first female technical staff within the department, working alongside about 25 gentlemen. But I must admit that in the beginning it was a challenge because you always have to match yourself up to your peers. But it also gives you that ability to use, you know, the hardships that you meet at work, the adversity you're going to go through, going through the jungle where we used to pick data in order to promote the investments in Uganda. It gives you an opportunity to unlock for other women to come into the sector. And I'm glad that my persistence in service, going through all these adversity and some of the key issues that we're going to talk about, hopefully amongst the panel here, things to do with sexual harassment, things to do with lack of flexi hours, things to do with the way we were built as women. There are things that we are supposed to go through that our counterparts don't go through. So you go through a chain of so many things, yet you're supposed to deliver and prove yourself. Yeah. So having lived through this experience of oil and gas and working in a male-dominated environment, it helps you unlock opportunities for other women to thrive. There's no question about it. It's going to be challenging. You're going to face politics. You're going to face, all these different adversities. But for me, the learning has been that it has helped me build myself into what I am today. Take risks, calculative risks. I'm qualified. There's no question about that. And I've been telling people that the first pass, the weapon a woman is going to use wherever you're going to thrive is being educated. Yeah. And being well educated, because I know there are people who are going to enter into the sector with some level of competence, but the issue of technical know-how for me doesn't actually apply, because if I'm going to thrive in a male-dominated world, I'm going to be competing with my peers, and if I'm not technically competent, then there's going to be a problem. Everyone is going to be looking at me as, someone who got the job because of her looks, someone who got the job because of her dressing or because of her father, because of whatever. That is not something that I want to be tagged against my name. Yeah. I want to be a capable lady, someone who can make decisions, someone who can take risk, someone who can strategize and change the outlook of the industry. So I think it's really a learning experience.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Thank you, Proskovia. Now, talking to Humphrey, you deal a lot with the youth. And just listening to Proskovia, she's saying one of the key elements for us ladies especially is to get educated. And not just educated, like properly educated. I think we have to go 2 steps further than the men. Now, you said also in your foundation, you have about 80% female ladies rather working with you. So what is the message, especially coming from a guy, what is the message you are passing on to these young ladies when it comes to the workplace? Yes. Your mic.
The very many messages that we pass over to young people especially. At Reach a Hand, how we do is that we start mentorships as early as possible. And also in most cases, we don't really look at the level of education that someone has taken. But in most cases, we look at the level of commitment, we look at the level of passion that they have towards different issues that we're dealing with. Because in most cases, the issues that we deal with may be similar to Ruth. They are so much humanitarian. and also they need a lot of they need a lot of empathy, yeah, and they having a lot of empathy, but also at the same time they need a lot of on how is someone really committed and passionate towards addressing certain issues. And also you find that some of those issues that we are addressing and also dealing with are issues that are affecting young women and young girls. And who is the best champion to do that? You find that the women are also the best champions to be at the forefront of doing that. So once they're dealing, let's say, with money, they're dealing with issues of committing to their deliverables, they know that there's someone out there that they have to commit themselves to address some of those issues and also to reach out to. So in most cases, the message that we always consider giving them is that how do you first respect yourself at the workplace so that also you can commit respect from other people to come to you as an individual, and also how are you being a role model to so many people out there. So no matter that what you do, it also reflects to so many people that are looking up to you and so many people that you're serving. So basically that's the message that carries across. And also you find that in a balanced way that women and girls are more committed to their jobs than how men look at it. Because a man is going to look at it, one, am I earning? Yeah. Secondly, am I comfortable in my place? But a woman is going to look at it in a way that, am I creating a difference in the life of someone? So that's why even in the workplace, they're more committed. They're more, they have so much stress that most time they never even want to bring at work because they are committed onto something and they want to achieve it.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that one. Now talking to, of course, Ruth from Grace Villa. You have about 200 girls you're taking care of. And one of the things I know you do is you take them through education. But now, in this reality of ours, there's education, the one they call book smart, then there's street smart. And you've had, like even Proskovia just kind of dropped a hint of it. Once you get out there into the world, how are you preparing these ladies? Because, some of these things that happen in the workplace could be sexual harassment. How are you preparing them to be able to be like Proskovia and take that risk, build that rock on your shoulder to be able to compete with these men? So how are you helping these young girls as we speak?
Thanks, Didan. Well, it's still predominantly a man's world out there. If you think about it, women being accepted, even into the common world of work just happened in, I think, 1964 with the Civil Rights Act that allowed women to also be on the same level education-wise, work-wise, and okay, many of you are young here, but 64 is not that long ago, so it's still a learning curve right now. The girls that I deal with, as Dida knows, I live in Kampala. So I look after girls who are pretty much from upcountry, from the village. And the mentality there, even with me when I moved to Kampala, I have to work a little harder just to get respect from people because, number one, I'm a woman. Number two, they think I'm young because I look younger than I actually am. And then also I'm not married, so I have like 3 strikes against me. So, but my daily life is, I have children who are looking at me. Basically, I'm a role model. So I think Humphrey mentioned it, every step I take is a lesson for these girls. I talk about how, like, sometimes I don't even want to read, but I read a book just in front of them so that they see that Auntie Ruth is always reading a book, sometimes half asleep. But basically, everything that I do is an example to these girls. We're named Grace Villa, and that's because of my mom. And a name really holds weight. So my mom is my mentor, and she was actually the first woman to be ordained as an Anglican priest in the whole of Africa. And it was only, hi mom, where is she? It was a few years ago. Well, it was in the 80s. That's not that long ago. So she pretty much personifies what I want the children, what the children to grow up like. It's a man's world, even today, that world of being a reverend. Even the women get confused when they see you sometimes walking in with a collar. But my mom does it with a lot of passion. She's very graceful, but she's also very, very, very strong and assertive, which sometimes gets her into trouble. But she knows that, to get places, you sit in a meeting, you don't become don't be a shadow, assert yourself. And many times people say, oh, that woman, when a woman is assertive, they say you're arrogant or you're in Ruchiga, it's Omuhashoni, But you learn, so it's a juggle. Like it's a bit sad, but we have to learn how to juggle as women.
Yeah.
Just so that you get somewhere. So with our children, we empower them to be strong. A big percentage of them almost all of them have been through abuse. Even the tiny little ones who are 7 have been abused, you know. So what our job is to bring them out of that and remember that your past does not define you. You know, your past can actually, it can kind of create a persona, but it should not define you. And you know, what you've gone through can actually give you an extra strength that someone who hasn't been through trauma like that does not have. So we teach the kids that despite what happened to them, it was not their fault. You know, these were just stupid, ignorant men who abused them. But they can, you know, go above it, excel in education. I loved what Eva said. Do not even just mainstream education, but anything that you do it 100%. We make things like the coat I'm wearing was made by the children. So we want people to buy our things, not because orphans made them, but because the things are actually good. You know, so whatever you do it to the best of your ability, and that will kind of bring that respect.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Now, talking to Eva, you're an IT manager, MTN, kind of a male-dominated sector in the business, and you're the IT manager. How do you manage? Because I do believe in your team you have men, and usually I feel like it's a little bit difficult for men to look at the lady and the lady saying, I need you to do this and this and this and this. How do you deal with that in the office, especially now me, who wants to take over maybe in my office? But there's a lot of male voices on radio and, you know. So how do you deal with that pressure of people either deciding to listen to you? How do you get them to listen to you, especially the opposite sex?
Thank you, Didan. You're actually right. In my department, I've been there almost 10 years, and specifically my section, I've been the only lady for all that time. And I can tell you, it's like Proskovia mentioned earlier, it's a challenge working with men. You need to prove yourself constantly for them to realize.
Humphrey, are you listening? Eh? It's a challenge working with you guys. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, you have to constantly prove yourself that you can actually do it. But then I've realized sometimes you don't have to compete with them on the technical skills. There are things as women that we bring to the team. Warmness, relationship, because sometimes to work with people, you just have to relate well with them. I don't have to know everything in IT, but if I have a good team that is working for me, all you need is to relate with them. As a woman, so we do different things. So you lead with presence, lead with energy, and people should come in the office and see you have energy as a woman. You're on time, you're speaking to them well, you get in touch with the team that you work with. So you explore other ways to work than actually trying to prove a point that, man, I'm a technical person, I can also code, I can do this. So we try the other aspects of leadership and managing people. And I've realized over time that works. It actually works. So you get people to really want to work for you because they feel they're part of a team, you respect them, you're getting personal with them to understand. You know, there are things that, even just greeting someone in the morning, where do you live? What do you do on a weekend? What kind of family? As in that kind of talk with your staff, it also helps them feel part of a team and they actually work for you. So you don't have to really prove yourself.
Really prove yourself. Yes. Thank you so much for that, Eva. Now, earlier on, we kind of hinted on sexual assault. Proskovia, I believe you're the one who hinted on it. And I'll ask any of you, you can actually answer this. When we talk about sexual assault in the office, I don't know how many of you even know what sexual assault is. Because somebody might say, the guy just holding my waist, but he's my friend, we work together. It's not assault. Yet my colleague is going to say that it's sexual assault. So could one of you please help us and tell us what exactly is sexual assault? And is it different depending on the women in the office? Because some people maybe being held on the waist is okay. Somebody else will come to the office and go like, oh my God, Eva, you look very beautiful today. A man will tell you that, and you might take it offensively. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, oh gosh, I try. Thank you. So what is sexual assault, and how can we deal with that in the office? We can begin with maybe.
I guess sexual assault comes at different levels. And to your point, when someone, throws a statement to me that I'm uncomfortable with, I always believe I have a right to speak out. But what happens is that most times ladies, take it quietly and say, okay, he has thrown a comment or two, so what? Let me walk off. But it all stems out of the culture you have in an organization. The more you do not embed cultural values that are protecting women, then you're going to open up opportunities for the other gender, the male gender, to start attacking the women. Now, in my view, and what we've done as National Oil Company, is to have policies that are targeted towards protecting women, right from the way you're addressing the woman in an office, to the way women are being treated at late hours. Are you leaving the woman to walk late home, to go back home when they're not having access to transport? They become susceptible to sexual assault or even rape along the roads. So I think it stems out of what culture are you setting up as an organization? Is it targeted? Is it inclusive to embed those values that are protecting women? Or is it open? And even then, as a woman, you're supposed to defend yourself against such circumstances. For instance, if someone came and told me, Proskovia, you're looking gorgeous today, and it was offending me, automatically speak out. And if you're the other person who is listening into such a conversation and you feel it's, it's a sexual harassment or sexual assault, defend the other woman. Otherwise, it will keep on going on, like it's something you can ignore, and then it builds up into something major, which is ultimately going to distort the culture that you set out to build.
Talking about Humphrey, yes.
One is that I'll first commend the organizers for this great event, but non-balanced, because the men are not there to be talked to.
There are few.
There are few,
Scattered,
but
yes.
we needed more voices as well, because
Yes.
these conversations need to be balanced at the end of the day. For me, sexual assault, the way my colleague, the panelist said, it's also a balance depend on the culture. Because men are assaulted at work by women, as well.
How do we assault you at work?
Yeah. As well, women are assaulted at the workplace. And also, I'll tell people here that the most challenging thing is to work with young people. We define different cultures differently. Everything is growing. The workplace of the 1990s is a different workplace now in this century. In that now it's well balanced. We have women at work. We have male at work. And also you find that in most organizations now, a workplace has become like a different family. Yeah, whereby hugging is normal, holding each other is normal, bullying each other is a bit sensitive, but also sometimes they find it normal. Like maybe, for example, the radio station you work in, like they have different cultures and different ways of taking each other. But also in most cases, depending on what she has said, policies in place, they try to guide us better. And also having different ways, because even as we have peer educators here that we send in schools, you find that schools are going to call you like, hey, but Humphrey, they were dressed in a different way that was not making us comfortable. But how do we also understand the school's culture, the regulations, and how they take themselves? So the same things have to be brought at the workplace. We teach young people about body touches.
Yes.
What are the bad touches? What are the good touches? So are those really educated at work? So you find that maybe men are going to be, like I have my colleagues at work, they come saying that, but the way this person was dressed today, man, it was, uncomfortable. Yet for some people are looking at it in a more cool way. But someone is not delivering to their expectations of work because they were taken away by how someone was dressed. It might be cool, but in themselves, inside as men, they're also dying. You get it? But are we addressing some of those issues? Do we have regulations, for example, at the workplace that is addressing issues on the dress code, how women are supposed to dress, how men are supposed to dress? Because also men, in our dressing, we might harass you without even knowing.
Yes.
In my way of talking to you, it might be also sexual harassment.
I think those ones who look at you with the eye.
Yes, so
those
sexual
ones.
harassment is not about the physical harassment, but it goes beyond emotions.
Yeah.
You know, what rules are you putting in place? For us, we have a slogan at our organization that goes even beyond the peer educators. Because also working with young people, we find their relationships amongst them that is also going to destroy everything. And they're adults. So what we say is that we have a rule which says a family member doesn't eat a fellow family member.
Yes.
So meaning that there are no sexual relationships that are supposed to be allowed.
Aye, but
at the
comrade,
workplace.
you know the heart has its own, eh?
Yes,
You know, and that's what I wanted to go with actually
You
with
see-
Eva, because
you
I'm
see-
so glad you brought it up.
You see, that's what I'm talking about. We are creating role modelship. If you're involved in a sexual relationship, declare it. And we understand it. So by understanding it, then one of you has to leave. I think this is something that cuts across in different companies
Yes.
as well. But at the end of the day, maybe they'll give examples, we're destined to be together and all that kind of stuff. Yes, your destiny can be outside there. Either of you can leave. But sexual harassment is not about physical, it goes emotional, it's also become a non-communicable kind
Yes.
of situation
Yeah.
that has to be addressed in different ways.
All right. If you have a question for the panelists, please let me know. We do have a microphone courtesy of Gladys before I let them go. So if you have a question for our panelists here, please go ahead and ask them a question. But earlier on, you talked about relationships in the workplace. Yeah. How do you deal with situations like that? Because me, I won't lie. If me, I like. The head is not thinking at that time of my job, whatever. The emotions are stronger than... how do you deal with the office relationships first? Is it encouraged? And if it's okay with it, how do you deal with that situation? Because, of course, in a relationship, we're going to have problems. And that problem is going to come to work also. Now, you being one of the female leaders at MTN, how do you deal with such situations if it's allowed?
Thank you. MTN is one of those companies that is like a young company. So one thing is those things will actually happen, because if you realize you spend the most of your time at your workplace, so relationships are bound to happen. In my workplace, not that it's encouraged, but it's happening. But what happens is if you're in a serious relationship, you can't be in the same department. That's number one.
Hey, but that's how we met.
Yes. Yeah, well, but...
In the IT department.
So, no, if it's going, if it's going to go to that level, then you either have to move department, because we actually have married people within our company.
Yeah.
Married, and they work in MTN. But you either have to leave the department and go to another department. Others leave the company. But most important thing is, I mean, if it's work, it's work. You have to
learn how to separate.
You have to separate the relationship with work. The only problem is sometimes if it happens, especially with the ladies, they tend to take it for granted. They don't pay attention to work because, I mean, the boss is doing this with me. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if that is going to happen, just learn how to separate your work and your relationship. But I can say it's difficult to avoid it if you spend most of your time at work.
At work.
Yeah.
Now, earlier on, Humphrey had talked about the dress. How massive is the dress code that it can actually affect our workplace? Because so many times we've had stories all over the world. Women have been raped. The main cause, or the raper, or the rape, will say it's because of the way the person was dressed. This person was dressed in a full, what are they called? You know, bui, the Muslim loose, but they were raped. So how important is it, especially for us ladies, and even the gentlemen who are here,
Even men
when
and
it comes to the dress code in the workplace? What is the proper attire? Because for me, this is radio. For me, this is normal. I can even wear shorts or ragged jeans to work and, and a t-shirt, and it's normal. But in other companies, in other sectors, like now you're in oil, you're in MTN, what is the dress code? How should we women and men present ourselves in the office so that we can get that respect? How should we dress as women so that we can be looked at as people who can actually lead a company? Like, I want to be a leader on radio. I want to own that station. How should I be dressing right now that will take me to the level I want to go to?
I'll try to attempt to answer that from the perspective of oil and gas and from the perspective that I'm a C-suite person. Really, what I believe that is that if you want to be a manager, you have to dress up like one. And again, it talks back to what I said. In principle, every organization should have a policy around dress code. In my area of work, certainly dreadlocks are not going to apply. You're not going to be talking to the board with dreadlocks. In other environments, it could work. In my area of work, people have been advocating for, thank God it's Friday, TGIF. You dress down a little, but we're not going to allow you to come in canvas shoes or shorts. You tone it, but I mean, don't dress too much down. So I think it's all embedded in the values of the company, and again, talking to what your strategic partners' values are, because there's no way you're going to be too variant from the partners that you're partnering with on businesses. For example, if we partner with Total Sino Cantalo, and your culture and vision is totally off-grid compared to them, they are going to do a due diligence on you, and you do not want to be off-grid. So you always have to try and look at your internal culture, and then look at the culture of your peers, who you relate with, and then create that policy that allows women to dress up in a manner that is not offensive internally, but also not offensive to their counterparts, the strategic partners. So basically, that's what I would really think.
All right, as we wait, we have a question from the, yes.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Sorry about that. So again, Tremaine Subi, and I graduated last year from university, and just going with that experience on student government, I got to see a lot of gender imbalance and gender discrimination and even sexual harassment and assault cases completely mishandled. So as a person who has minimal experience here with the Ugandan workplace, I'm just wondering for you all, what reporting procedures do you have in place at your organizations for men and women who've been harassed or assaulted? And are they dependable, not just filling out a form for HR and hoping someone hears your case? And also, how do you manage people taking sides or misinterpretations or people's jobs being threatened? Like, do you actually have an official protocol for reporting sexual assault and harassment at your workplaces? And if so, is it thorough? Is it lacking? What could be better? Thank you.
Sexual harassment, no matter how small or large or who is involved, as an employer, you have to deal with it immediately, quickly, and appropriately. Because employees need to feel safe at the workplace. So like in my company, we have, first of all, we have a line that you call, and it's anonymous if you have a specific issue. And I can tell you it's followed up, and whatever it is that happens is communicated, and then we know. Because once you water it down, means it's accepted. But it needs to be communicated and the person put to task so everyone knows, so they feel safe. So I think that's what needs to happen. For employers not to water it down, but actually deal with it appropriately, openly, and quickly. I think that's what I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, mine is not a very official work environment. And like I mentioned before, I'm in Kampala, up country. And reporting is pretty much, it almost never happens. So with us, we've discovered that even if children go to report to the police, which is what obviously you would think is the right step to take, many times the police will say, that's a family thing. Honestly, this is a response. So, and then after they've reported, police know that you've reported, it's a small community, suddenly you're branded as the child who was assaulted. People look at you funny instead of, looking at the person who assaulted you funny. So because of that, it creates a ripple effect of kids not reporting. So I'm very, very, very involved in the children's lives, and it's a struggle to extract information from them. But we try to find creative ways of doing it. For one thing, we pair the little ones with older kids, hoping that they're more honest with older kids. And then the older kids come and tell us in their own way. We also really encourage a writing, them writing, right? And you write a letter, write your feelings, and then slip it under my door or something. And the kids know like Eve mentioned, my reaction is really swift and really passionate, and so the kids know that I'm a lioness when it comes to kids, our girls being harassed in any sort of way, in school, in the home, when they go to the well to fetch water, but men boys, I don't know why, but people get away with it so much. Then, of course, we send kids out into the world. I had one of my eldest is now in university, so during her vac, she went to work at a school in a village close by, and she called me after 2 nights and said, I can't do this anymore, because every night fellow teachers come into the place where the female teachers are, and they pair up, and everybody just spends the night in the room, and it's a common thing, and it's known, and it has happened for years. And everybody thinks I'm weird because I keep trying to refuse the boys, and she was now an outcast in that community. Even the deputy was doing it, and the headmaster was doing it. So I was livid, and what do? You don't want her to lose her job, but of course there's no way I can keep quiet. What I did is I called someone in the community, a friend who knew the MP, who went to the MP, and they just descended upon the school. And I didn't even tell her that this was going to happen. But I didn't pull her out. I just said, remember the values we've taught you. Remember the strengths you have. She's born again, pray and all that. Because I knew if I pulled her out, how would she learn? The next year she was going to Makerere University, or hopefully, that's what we were praying for, and indeed she did get accepted. So I couldn't pull her out because this is reality. So I said to myself, what I've taught her is now going to come into play. We're going to see if how we're raising these kids is going to actually help them in the future. And this would also hopefully trickle off into when they enter the real workforce, and so that they know what their rights are and that they stand for them.
Thank you very much. My name is Hajat Sebiala, one of the youngest in the room. My question goes to Madame Nabanja. You did talk about cultural values that protect women at the workplace. I'm just trying to understand how you put in place these cultural values specifically to protect women. You did talk about what time they leave work. Do you have different times for gentlemen to break off and different times for women? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. In terms of cultural values that you embed in your policies to ensure that women thrive in an environment where they are not harassed, certainly there are certain clauses within your policies that are going to talk about sexual harassment, about flexi hours, about how your maternity leave, how long it's going to be. Are you going to be having breastfeeding rooms at the workplace to make an enabling environment for the woman to thrive at work? In terms of working hours, yes, I was generalizing for, a bigger, sort of business range, from oil and gas to people who are doing sales to even the woman on the street who is selling tomatoes or whatever. So imagine if your daughter was working under some other person and she's managing a stall and she's being asked to leave the place of work at 9 p.m. Is there any incentive for them, to stay at work without risking their lives? We've had so many stories of women being raped after closing their MTN or whatever mobile money stalls. It's quite touching to see that actually we've let the industry, be on the loose and allow women to be treated as such without protecting them. Now, in the place where I work, we consider sexual harassment as a safety principle. And the way we attach safety in our culture is safety first. We don't take a rain check on safety. So if someone is impacting on someone's safety, there's no rain check on that. So we take it seriously and it will be addressed immediately. And one of the things we tell the staff immediately, that the reason as to why we have the HR department and the reason as to why we pay them is to address some of those things. But in most cases, you find people reporting sexual harassment to HR. At the end, they'll first confide in a friend, they'll first go and even tell their relatives. Sometimes a relative gives the COO a call saying, my girl is having, these issues. Why go through that? Someone is earning a paycheck in order to deliver that work. So use the HR department. I know some people have said HR is normally men, but again, they have their JD, they have the job description to deliver on that work. They should be able to listen to you. And if they don't, then you escalate it to the supervisor. So to your point, the culture has to be targeted towards protecting women and even men in case they're sexually harassed. And, all those different avenues that enable the woman to exist together with the other gender. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that one. Now, finally, as we come to a close to this, we're all working. You have young girls, you're pushing the youth, pushing, to make sure they get an education, get a job at the end of the day. Growing up, we're always told, I want you to be a lawyer, but clearly I'm on radio. I think I disappointed my parents. But we all work because we want to earn a living. There's nothing for free. You've got to pay rent, you've got to eat, you've got to go to work. And one of the biggest problems we have, and I will speak because of two things. First, in my industry, entertainment business, I've come to discover that we females are paid slightly lesser than the gentlemen. All right, be it a male artist, be it a radio presenter, TV host, or things like that, or even just emceeing, hosting an event, we're paid slightly less than the men. Two, in the office, you have ladies who are doing a very good job, but they do not know how to ask for that salary increment. How do we, as ladies, or even as young men, go up to our bosses and say, you know what, this is what I've been doing, and I feel like I deserve to be earning such and such an amount of money. I'd like an increment on my salary. How do we get out of our shell? Because especially women, let me speak as a woman, I fear. Sometimes people will tell me, but you shouldn't be charging that, you should be charging women. I'm like, I don't know how to ask. How do we get out of that shell?
Maybe.
Humphrey.
Yeah. It's a very good question.
Yeah.
But both of us are in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
And I hope today you're paid more than...
This is my
this
is my job.
You see,
Where are my bosses? How comes I'm not here in this?
one of the things I've realized that every successful woman has a story to tell in terms of the journey that they have passed through to be where they are.
Yes.
So meaning that they have met all odds, they have made a lot of sacrifice. You hear in their story, they'll say, I've made a lot of sacrifices to be where I am. So we don't know those sacrifices they have made,
Yes.
but they've made those sacrifices. But one of the things that stands out is that they have stood out for themselves to be at the forefront and their voices to be heard. Now, this doesn't come whether you're a man, whether you're a woman. At the end of the day, we're all running a business. Every employer is going to go with who works less but puts in a lot of effort to achieve that deliverable. Even if you're a woman that is employing people, also you're going to start looking at that, whether you're a man or a woman. But at the end of the day, things have now changed. There's a lot of negotiation that is now made in terms of you as an employee and your employer. You have to first also put your needs first. Because we all have needs in a different capacity, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman. But also we understand that women are undervalued at the workplace in that they are not looked at as being ambitious. They're not looked at, sorry?
I was being told by somebody earlier on that, yeah, you women, you're getting pregnant, like I'm the one who impregnated myself. Then we want time out.
Yeah, but also let's say we as employers, what are we putting in place to have equal opportunities for women and men? So that we bridge that gap of you don't have to work so hard to earn a favor from your boss or to earn an increment from your boss, but as well you're putting in an effort and you're putting your value which has to be having equal pay, value for money. So that's one of the things that we have to put in place, in that you have equal opportunities that you're giving to women, as well you're giving to men,
yeah.
but also as well you're creating a favorable environment for women to have, because also they're ambitious, they have career goals, for them to achieve those kind of basics that they have.
Thank you so much for that. And now, Eve.
I was actually going to supplement what you were saying.
Yes.
In terms of women and negotiating and talking about your salary and all. Also, us as women, we just need to be able to justify certain things to your boss, to your HR. I mean, we normally don't talk about our positives, what you're bringing to the table. You always have to, I mean, your boss has to see value from you, that's one. And also two, I mean, if you're doing something, show it and talk about it, because that gives you a platform to talk about, to negotiate, or to claim for whatever it is you want.
All right. Yes, Pascal.
Just to supplement on that, and I think, in my view, and of course I've been quite on a number of interviewing panels for my company, and chairing the interviewing panels, it's so glaring that when it comes to the question of what is your salary expectation,
yes,
the women are taken back. You just
shy
go
away.
quiet, you shy away, and we do not promote, the value we are bringing to the company compared to the men. A man will tell you he's valued at 20 million per month, period. You ask the lady and she'll be like, I'm comfortable with whatever structure you have in the organization, but you're bringing value to the company. I think we need to move out of that shell and, and put a value proposition there to the company. But also, the other thing that I've noticed is that when a woman is successful at work and they're delivering a lot, and you ask them, oh, you did so well, we are very quick to say, oh, yeah, but so-and-so helped me.
yes.
Thanks to God, my mother also helped. We are very quick at picking on someone else for our success. And if you ask a man, he'll tell you, I did
I
the
thought
work.
that's being a team player. We're
Yeah.
trying to show that.
So I think we need to, claim our success
Yeah.
and rebrand ourselves, because it's very difficult to see value in you if you don't see the value in you.
All righty.
I think that's the basic principle. Wherever you have made success, promote it. Show your boss that I actually worked so hard to attain this. Don't give your success to someone else. God, yes, fine. God is really in the middle of everything we do, but sometimes we even pick on our relatives, on whoever, before we come to ourselves as being the main contributor to our success. So I think there is need to change that attitude.
Yes.
And I think, to me, that is very critical.
All right. Thank you very much. A round of applause to our panelists for here today. Thank you so much to my panelists. Thank you so much for being part of this. And from what we have learned here, education, especially for us ladies, and even the gentlemen now, it's very, very important. Being able to speak out in case of sexual assault. Speak out. Let it be known. And do not go to your relatives. Go straight to the HR. Of course, if you're working in a good company, the guidelines on how to behave in the office. 3, be a good boss. And it's possible for ladies to be the bosses in the company. And you do not have to be like financial, like you don't have to be a head of accounts and then you know everything about accounting. It's the way you act around the people. And try and learn a little bit extra more as you work. That is what I've picked up from today's conversation. So thank you so much to all of you. We're going to be moving on to our next discussion, and this time around, we're going to be doing more about wellness. Now, food is one of the most important needs that we have for us to be able to actually do anything. I can eat food and I don't know where the weight goes, but in Jesus' name. Hey, I've been having issues. So we're going to be having a gentleman who's going to be coming up here to talk to us about food.
So for anything in the area of food, whether professionally or for family at home, feel free, the Cooking School Uganda.
It's so amazing that growing up in the African culture, we were told the kitchen is a woman's place. But in today's world, some of the best chefs around the world are actually gentlemen. So I'm just wondering, when you go home, do you cook for your family, your wife? Why is it chefs never enter the kitchen at home?
But before I get to that, can I say something about what
Yes.
just happened here a bit
Yes.
earlier?
Yes.
I had something burning in me, but because I was coming on next, I said, let me keep it. Two things, and I'm going to use an example of you and probably Christo around.
Yes.
I can bet for the next 5 or 10 years, if you lined up the best radio presenters in the country, men,
Yes.
to take up Christo's position, they would not get employed. You agree or not?
I agree.
And I'm going to tell you why. Even as we're seated in here, apart from me,
Yes.
if you choose any of these men randomly or all of them to come and do what you're doing,
Yes.
I can bet any can do it better than you.
Yeah. Boss, don't try and take my job away, boss. Please.
Reason
Calm
I'm saying
down.
this is there's something special about women
Yes.
that they bring to society and community. That it doesn't matter whether you're the best man in the country, you can never do what they do because they do it differently.
Okay.
The only difference is that they're in a female flesh
Yes.
and I'm in a man's flesh. But in terms of what they bring to the table, I think they're the best.
All right.
Now,
Ladies,
I
you're the
wanted to
best.
ask the people here on the panel.
Yes.
One of the challenges I've seen is that when we talk about sexual harassment or maybe a work environment and how we work at our workplaces, many people and many organizations are dealing with the effects of sexual harassment, the effects that come after our children, the little girls, the daughters, have not been well groomed, and the guys. I had a heated discussion with some friends in my office that the problem is we are talking about you being harassed,
Yes.
but we're not talking about the person who is harassing you.
Yes.
Yet I think the real thing is not you, it is the person.
The person, yes.
And if we are going to deal with this, I think we need to go back to the root, the children, it's family. That's why the lady was saying when you go to police, they say that is a family
That is
matter.
a family matter.
If we handle it from the family, from the little guys, we teach them how to respect their colleagues, the women, in the future we will not have all this that we are having.
Exactly.
So I wanted to put something a bit controversial here, that don't you think you're tackling this issue at the wrong point?
Instead of dealing with the problem that is
Because
that
you're going to
person
keep
who
employing
assaulted.
people with a background. What is acceptable to you may not be
May not
acceptable
be.
to me.
Yes.
But I mean, we're going to work together. And funny enough, there are laws in place that are protecting these funny things.
Yes.
So the best way we go back to the root.
Thank
That's what I wanted to contribute to
Thank
the
you.
panel that was here.
Thank you. Now, going back to wellness.
Yes.
Food is very important.
At home, I cook.
At home, you do cook.
For my wife, for my children, I cook. I love cooking and eating, so I cook for fun, I cook for money, I cook for family. I love cooking.
It's a very beautiful thing when you turn a hobby into a money-making machine.
Yes.
How did you manage to do that? Because we have very many talented young ladies and gentlemen here, very talented. But we do not know how to turn our passion into a money-making business of some sort.
Yes.
You've managed to do it. How would you tell, how did you turn that into a money-making machine?
It all comes to perspective and mindset. Of late, I'm working on a project where I had to first go and look for opportunities, then I come and then train you basing on the available opportunity. So it comes back to mindset and your attitude and how you look at things. But also, personally, I always want to stand out, I want to be different, I want to excel. So I look out for something unique, which not everybody is doing. So when I
Yes.
do it, I stand out.
You stand out.
Whether I am good at it or not yet good, as long as I'm the only one doing it, then I'm standing out.
Fantastic. Anyway, even me, I stand out. I'm the only woman with such a deep voice.
First name.
Right, that is a chef Henry right here doing his thing behind the kitchen. There are actually 3 ways he was showing, but because of time, I would like you guys to actually ask him all the questions you'd like to ask him right here. We decided to forward the video a little bit. Now, you've made for us chicken right there. How does it feel having another chef watching you do your thing? Let me just begin, because I'm seeing the head chef of Sheraton here, comparing notes.
There are 2 things. You're either too good that you're having him around,
Yes.
interested and loving what you're doing, or you're on the line.
Oh, you're on the line.
Yes.
Now, let's get back to food. Let's get back to food. If you have any questions, by the way, please, in case we don't give the microphone to you, you can actually write it down on your piece of paper, and then it shall be forwarded to me just in case we do not get to you. Because I know so many guys had questions for the first panel, but because of time, I could not get it done. Now that we do have actually Chef Henry here with us, do you have any questions pertaining to food, healthy food? How do we try and maintain our weight but still eating good food? 3, how do we keep our family interested in our food that we're making? Because now you've shown 3 ways of making chicken. But now, me in my house, we grew up eating matoke and ebinyebo every day. Every day. Let's not pretend like some of you are not like us. Yeah, every day, matoke and ebinyebo, banange we got tired. So I'm imagining now what my dad is thinking. Me who's trying to see how to make food fun, what would you encourage us to do? Like, what are those simple things that we need to have just to make something slightly different?
Actually, if you notice, all over the country, we have more or less the same items, the same food items. So the only difference is how you do it and how you go about it. You just have to be creative and innovative. Actually, in that episode, I did chicken 6 different ways. So you can have your family eat chicken every day, but it tastes different and it's served different. So it comes back to your creativity and innovativeness. Sometimes, probably because of your background, you may not have had the chance to interact with creative people. That's where the TV shows are on, and then on YouTube, and then all these ideas, so you can pick. But the best, in case you're not as creative, come to the cooking school, Uganda.
Because me, I'm wondering, now I'll be in the kitchen with a frying pan, then the fire lands into the frying pan. Some of us don't really have time to do all of that, especially now. All these are working females. And we still know men will rarely enter the kitchen, apart from some of you. Men still rarely enter the kitchen. So I leave work at 7 p.m. If I live in Nigeria, that is 2 hours on the road because of traffic. Then I get home. I now have to cook food for my whole family. How do we do that and make sure that the food, I'm tired, and I think when you're cooking food, it depends on your mood. Sometimes the food comes out so good, and then sometimes you make the same meal the next day, it's not as good as yesterday. How do I make sure I get something cooked in 20 minutes, healthy? Like, I want to know what are those ingredients that I should always make sure I have, whether I have time to cook or I do not have time to cook. It's hungry, yeah.
Anyway, like I said, it comes back onto your creativity, but I also want to bring something to our attention. Many of us look at food nowadays and eating healthy as a big problem. And we look at food as a commodity, as a product. But food is not a watch, it is not a cologne, it is not a car. Food is a culture, food is a way of life. We eat food because of its background. I will give you an example. Once you mention sushi, immediately you relate with a particular kind of people.
Yes.
Once you say Luombo, there are people that come into play. My name is Wanyama. Every time I mention it, the next statement would be Osmaninieni, because we relate with food. So food is a culture, it's a tradition. So it should be part of us. We should not throw it away. We should not look at it as a burden. Like I said, it's creativity, innovativeness, and the willingness. You just have to love it. Especially for women.
Yeah.
Naturally, you are supposed to be in the kitchen. Naturally.
You see, that's the problem.
No, it's not a problem.
No,
it's not a problem.
I'll explain why after you finish.
Naturally, as ladies, you're the one that cooks and prepares food for the family. I'll teach you 2 things about food. Food speaks and communicates. I can bet 4 out of 5 of the ladies here, the first proposal you ever received was, can I take you out for dinner? Can we do lunch? Yeah. Ice cream? Chikarai or something like that, you know? Because food speaks. So this guy wants to say something to you. He cannot say it in words. He can say it through food. So food is a driver. Now, even you ladies, the way to a man's life.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
nothing is as sweet as mommy's food.
Yes.
So you just have to love it and look for different ways of doing it. Don't look at it as a burden or as a problem. Even 10 minutes, you can put together a 3-course meal. 10 minutes, and everybody will love it.
Hey, you feel matoke,
It doesn't have to be matoke.
But
even
just
if it's matoke,
imagining,
yeah, you can plan. The issue also comes to your planning and preparation. Most of the cooking actually is not the action on the fire, is what happens behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
I cook in my head before I actually cook. So I know what I want to do, when I want to do it, so I start planning. Then I know, because I'll come back late and the children are back home, so I need to have something that cooks very fast.
Very fast, yes.
What is that? It could be chicken or fish.
Yes.
Then what can it go with? Such that as fish is cooking, the chicken is also cooking.
Yes.
By the time the chicken is ready, the fish is ready. 15 minutes and I'm serving lunch.
Now, talking about health, I don't know if we do have any questions, because I know Gladys is walking around. We do?
Someone here is asking, saying, I want to cut weight, and you are advising me to make chicken with butter. Is it okay?
And let me tell you, butter is sweet for Nangi. It's a very good question.
Actually, can I also submit to you that most of the weight you're suffering with or you're struggling to put off is not about the butter and the fat. It's actually about the carbohydrates that you're having. The starch is the problem. So if you're eating a lot of potato and posho and chips, anything with starch and carbohydrates, that is the problem. But also, me, unlike, and I know many of the nutritionists here might stone me, I advocate for eat anything and everything. The issue is how you eat it, what you do with it is what matters.
Yeah.
If you know it is not good for you, after eating it, then go do something with it. Don't just be lazy and sit down. So butter is not a problem. However, if you love chicken, in that episode, I cook chicken 6 different ways. Some have butter, some have vegetable oil, and some don't actually have even any oil in them. So it's just different ways of working with it.
All right, second question real quick.
Someone saying, what should I eat just to maintain my weight and remain healthy? You can eat anything and everything, but what you do with it is what matters.
What matters.
Make time to work out, make time to do something active so you can burn the calories. By the way, even if you're not eating too much, you still can put on weight. Weight is not just about food. Okay.
I've been trying, no, it's not working. 5 years.
So work out, choose some foods with less carbohydrates, less starch.
Yeah.
Then there you go.
All right, I also do have another question. We'll answer this very quick. Somebody writes in and says, I started baking cookies in 2016 and decided to make them for sale too. I had no training and mostly depended on YouTube to perfect my baking. I really enjoy baking, but I feel cookies aren't a hot cake snack like cakes are. So most people have encouraged me to venture into cakes to make more, but I love cookies and want to make that extra money from cookies only. What do you advise I can do to stand out with my cookies?
2 things. Number 1, learn also to do the cakes. So when I come and I want cake and cookie, you have the business.
Yes.
You don't want to send me away because you don't have cakes.
Yes.
Number 2, yes, it is good when you learn from YouTube and you watch these things, but you do not get the actual feeling and taste and flavor because through TV, you may not. So sometimes you need to go to, I will say again, I hope they won't charge me for this, come to the cooking school. So you can really test it.
Akalango web.
You get to test. The biggest challenge, people think it's easy for you to just watch YouTube and TV and learn.
Yes.
There are many things you're going to miss out on. The reality of doing it, number 1. Number 2, the temperatures. When I'm doing it on my TV, I am extra cautious.
Yeah.
But when you're there with me, there are certain things that may go wrong and I have to correct them. There you're able to see how I correct it. Number 1. Number 2, the taste and the flavor. On TV, you may never get the actual taste and flavor. So you need to go out there. And there are many places, not only the cooking school, there are many other places that teach. So you need to go and do it physically with someone who is better than you. The last thing about your business, make it different. Take it to the people. I will tell you, there are many cook shows in the country.
Yes.
But the chef stands out
Yes.
because of the way I do it. So do it differently. Yeah, do it differently. Take it to the people. Love it. Actually, it starts with you. Love it before they love it. I was here when the thing was starting and I'm already excited about my video.
Yes.
Yet it's me who did it. And then I saw her smiling. So you love it, you have a passion for it, everybody will love it automatically.
Automatically. Now, finally, how do I get in touch with you in case anybody has extra questions to ask? How do we follow you? How do we get extra lessons? When does your school season begin?
Okay. One, the cooking school Uganda. It's not the cooking school of Uganda. No, it is the Cooking School Uganda, both on YouTube and Facebook, even in the email, it's the cookingschooluganda.com. So if you want to reach me for any questions or about the school, the website is the Cooking School Uganda. And then I offer both diploma and certificate courses.
Yes.
That is those who want to do it professionally. But those who want to improve the quality and the standard of their
Those
life.
of us who will be getting married soon, we need to prepare.
You want to have nice meals for your family. You want to, someone you want to slay out there who's in the pipeline, you know?
Yeah.
You can look for me on the Cooking School Uganda. That's the website. It has my details. Even on Facebook, it has my details. And actually, the MTN number there is my number.
Fantastic. So if you have any extra questions for Chef Henry, who enjoys cooking, if you're planning on getting married soon, this is your opportunity to enter a new home, at least knowing how to make a cookie or chicken 6 different ways. You know what I mean? Thank you so much, Chef. If you have any more questions for him, please find him on all his social media accounts, and make sure you check out the website. You never know, you might get attracted to do a little extra cooking or just trying out a few things. We're going to be talking about the state of women's wellness in 2019, and this is mind, body, and spirit. I'd like to call upon the host. Actually, let me call the host of this panel, and that is Sabrina Agasha. She's a media personality. I'd also like to call upon her panelists. That will be Crystal Newman, another media personality. People who I want to be like, I aspire to be like, by the way. Esther Kalenzi, she's the founder of 40 Days and 40 Smiles. We also do have Elizabeth Kasuja, founder and CEO of Clear Your Mind. We have my boss, Tiba Murungi, president of Miss Uganda North America Women Leadership Program, and of course, Queen Shalom Aburu, Miss Uganda North America. Please put your hands together for these ladies. I'm on your spot. They come and sit.
So we're going to be speaking about the state of women wellness in 2019, mind, body, and spirit. And I have a panel here of lovely ladies because we all have dealt with having to deal with wellness in our lives. We're going to have a discussion about that. We have Crystal Newman, Esther Kalenzi. We have Elizabeth Kasuja and Tiba Murungi. Welcome, ladies. I'm going to start off by asking you, the panelists, what comes to your mind when we speak about women wellness? What is your definition of women wellness? Starting with you, Tiba.
I'll go ahead and describe what I feel or what I think of wellness. When anybody mentions wellness to me, I look at my whole entire life. I look at my body, my mind, and my soul. How am I taking care of my body physically?
Yes.
How am I eating? How am I exercising? And the other thing I think about when it comes to wellness is my mind. How am I taking care of my mind? And that's things like less stress, being a lot more positive than negative. And the other thing is my soul. How am I taking care of my soul? Because that encompasses my well-being as well.
We're going to get to that. How do you take care of your soul? Because a lot of times people hear about wellness and they think just physically. Krista, what is your definition of wellness?
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's, as Tiba said, it's so many different things. A lot of people, when they think of wellness, they automatically go to body and fitness and exercise. And I feel as women, that is probably one of the hardest areas where we judge ourselves so harshly. So before you even get into some crazy fitness regime, you first have to come from a place of self-love and acceptance. Because not everyone is going to be a size 8 or a size 6.
True.
So you need to start with that. But it's a combination of things. Mental health, what you allow into your life, the people you allow into your life, how they impact you. So wellness covers so many things. Your choices, whether it's about eating choices, whether it's about exercise, whether it's about mental exercises you do as well. It's a myriad of things. So it's about making sure that you are aligned with things that work for you so you're at peace with your decisions, your choices, and yourself.
Right. Elizabeth?
Wellness to me means a state of being in good health. In just to add on what they've both said, because I agree with their definitions, but also to to really pay attention to the wholesome picture. How am I doing physically? How am I doing emotionally? How am I doing mentally? How am I doing spiritually? So ensuring that you are on as much of a positive plane as possible in all those different aspects.
Okay. And finally, Esther?
I think I was very unlucky being the last.
They've taken all your answers.
Yes, but I'm not going to be like those students in school who say that was my answer. I think it's basically living a healthy, fulfilling life. I know for a lot of us, we think if I'm not sick, then I'm fine. Yeah, and yet a lot of the time you might not be physically okay, but there are other aspects of your life, whether emotionally or intellectually or spiritually, that are not going well. So I think it's basically living your best life.
All right, so joining us is Miss Uganda North America. Welcome. We're having a discussion about wellness, women's wellness. Yes. And I've just gone around and asked the panelists what their definition of wellness is. What is yours?
Well, my definition of wellness is us, especially us as women, having all these aspects of well-being aligned. Here in Uganda, in Africa, if we feel like we're physically okay, we are okay. If I'm fit, if I have 6 packs, if I'm this, I'm okay. And I think it also goes to hierarchy of needs. Yeah, in Uganda here, you're more concerned about what's going on your plate, how much you're earning, that we don't think about the vital parts of wellness, which is our insides. And I think wellness, much as it's about our outsides, it should also be about what's inside, our well-being, going to therapy, meditating, even turning to spirituality and religion for that anchor. And I think that's what wellness is.
Right. And guys, you can just be writing those questions down. We're going to be getting to them in a bit. So we've had definitions of what wellness is, and a lot of the times there's some things that are neglected. Tiba spoke about nurturing her soul, spirituality, and stuff like that. And Elizabeth, you deal with mental health.
Yes.
Right. What, in your opinion, is something that's overlooked very easily and often in the state of women's wellness and just with regard to mental health?
Okay. So I'll use a basic example that you can all understand. If, let's say you are walking, let me use you as an example. Let's say you are walking and you fell down and you scraped your knee, you fell on concrete. What's the first thing you would do?
Look for a doctor, I guess.
Or
look for a bandage.
Exactly. Either you find help or you fix it. You apply spirit or you apply ointment. Basically, you find a way of taking care of it.
Yes.
But it's mostly because it's physical. So you can see it and you know you're going to take care of it until maybe you have a scar, but a scar doesn't hurt. On the other hand, especially us women, because society has taught us that we have to be the ones taking care of everyone, and we kind of take it upon ourselves that we also forget to take care of our own selves. So in mental unwellness, what I'd say, it's like it could start as a small wound in your mind, like you're not mentally well.
Yes.
But you ignore it. Yet in actual sense, if you had a tiny wound on your hand, you would take care of it. So I feel it starts from a place of awareness. As long as you are aware, your mental wellness is as important as your physical well-being. That's where it starts. So you need to find things that help you feel fulfilled in your soul, like what makes you feel happy, what refreshes you, what rejuvenates you, and you invest time and effort in refilling your cup, because what I've learned so far is you can't give from an empty cup.
Yes.
So as women, because we are always giving, most of our roles as friends, as girlfriends, as spouses, as mothers, like our roles are giving, it's really important to be aware that your mental health is really important too, and you find a way to refill your cup.
That makes a lot of sense. So Crystal, as a professional, a lady in the media industry, I'm pretty sure you've encountered a few say, hurdles in terms of wellness of the mind. Let's speak about the mind right now. How are some of the ways you overcome issues like that?
Well, I like that you talked about women in media, because as women, number one, we are very judgmental of ourselves.
True.
But once you're out there, people feel that they have a right to comment on your choices, your decisions. And I find that you have to take a stand and decide who you are and what your values are before you give away power. I see this all the time. I see, especially if we talk about being in the media and online comments or criticism, there are a lot of people who start living their lives based off of other people's opinions. You can only live your life based off of your own decisions. And I like to talk about giving away power, because I see that with women all the time. You give away your power. Someone says something to you, and you get so upset. You get so riled up. And you're like, how dare they? Who do they think they are? But you are allowing that person to decide how you feel, and you're letting all that negativity into your life. So I find that you have to just, kind of decide who you are and do your thing.
Yeah.
You have a plan and you stick with it. Yes. And other people's opinions are welcome if they're positive, but your own opinion of yourself is the most important.
Yes, that's true. As somebody in the media as well, I find that it definitely can take a toll of you. Now, Tiba, you're an entrepreneur. And you basically are in a man's world, should I say, put it like that, quote unquote.
If you say that.
Yeah. What are some of the ways you stay grounded in terms of, because I know it can take a toll on you. I myself have tried to launch many businesses, but as you know, it's not easy. I know it takes a lot of hard work. How do you stay grounded as a woman, especially like mentally?
So for starters, it's helpful that I have somebody that I work with that understands me, my husband. We work together. He is like my sanity when things are breaking down. So he's the one who always tells me not to give up. So he's like my positive energy. But the other thing that I do and focus on is being mindful of the present. I put so much focus and positivity in what is happening in the present. Before that, I'm the kind of person who used to look at the past of what is happening, what has happened, where I'm at and where I'm heading. Now, that used to take a toll on me. Life abroad is very challenging. Like I said at the last LadiesFirst, you have a job 8 to 5, and you're the mother. You get home, the kids need to eat. We are not privileged to have a nanny or a maid at home, so you still have to be able to take care of that, and homework is waiting for you as well. Now that takes a toll on a woman. The other issue that we run into is like postpartum depression. And I didn't understand this until much later, that when a woman gives birth traditionally here, she moves back to moms, and mom helps, nurture her and teach her all these things. We do not have this on a silver platter. So we run into a lot of mental depression or postpartum depression. So being mindful of the present has helped me. There's 3 things that I look at: stop, breathe, think about what you're thinking. So when you're in that moment, when I'm in that moment, I stop and breathe. Yeah. And Julius usually tells me, Tiba, can you stop? Okay, stop. Now breathe. Yeah. Okay, I need you to think. So I go back and think about what I am thinking at the moment. Okay, what was I thinking? I was thinking that maybe I should try plan A. Okay, so is plan A working? I need plan B and C, for this situation that's going on at the moment. So the things that have helped me and led me through these are really stop in the moment, first stop. Before you take a drastic decision, I stop, I take a deep breath, and then I think about what I'm thinking. Consult if I have to. But yeah, that's really what has guided me.
Wow, that's deep. And living in the present actually does help a lot. I'm reading a book called The Power of Now. I feel like everybody needs to read that book. You've read it? Yeah, it's an amazing book.
taking
If
that
you,
down.
especially if you find that you live in your head a lot, you need to read The Power Now. Just it will awaken you. So, Shalom, our beauty queen.
Yes.
You must have a lot of pressure, you know, societal pressure.
Yes.
How do you deal with that in terms of staying true to yourself and staying grounded still as a woman, mentally and physically?
It's a lot, especially if, for those who don't know, I'm a mother and a wife.
Wow.
So juggling all this on top of going to school, having a job, taking care of my family, it is a lot. But one thing that I learned from my mother, who was in a similar situation as I am, is to be kind to yourself. We as women, we don't give ourselves enough grace, you know? As we go through things, we beat ourselves up. You should do better, you should be better, you should work harder, because many of us are not even complimented by the people around us because we're expected to do those things. We are not thanked for those things.
Yeah.
So when you slip a little bit, you beat yourself up. So one of the things that have helped me is giving myself grace. When I fall down, I pick myself up. I'm like, tomorrow is a new day, and I start all over again. And each day when I wake up, I'm like, new sunshine, new day, new activities, new mindset. And I do it all over again. That's what happens.
Wow. Okay, so we've spoken about the mental aspect of it. Let's talk about physical. We don't really, I mean, it's important still at the end of the day, you know? As women who are working, how do you manage to stay fit? You know, how do you incorporate that fitness into your regime? Do you even? Do you at all?
I hope you're not looking at me.
I'm looking at you.
I'm the absolute worst person you can talk to about physical health. Okay. For me, I think that it should be like on your terms. Yeah, we are all wired differently. There are people who are sort of like the gym life works for them. There are people who cannot even just lift their leg, you know, but they want to do something. And I think there are so many things that have come up on the internet. You know, there are lots of channels that will tell you, even apps on our phone. Yeah. And it's about having limits that you think you can get to. Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm going to walk 10 kilometers, yet I fail to even walk 1 kilometer. And it's funny that I should be the one to answer this question, because at the beginning of this year, I said, you know what, I have to do better. Personally, my work is my exercise. My work is my exercise because I move a lot. I do a lot of leg work, and I find myself forgetting the one thing that I think is important, and that's rest. So I'm going to focus on rest. It's also physical. We take it for granted, and for a lot of women who are on this panel, some of whom I've worked with, I know that you are either leading an organization or running an initiative, or even home, like running the home life. That's a whole other establishment. And rest comes last. You think about all the things that you have to do, the errands you have to run, the people you have to take care of, the businesses you need to run, and rest comes last. And on a personal level, I have had to suffer the consequences of not resting because of thinking we are super women, we have to, you know, save the world. And at the end of the day, you find that your body starts to attack you.
Yeah.
And so for me, my sense of my body attacking me, I get migraines, very bad migraine attacks that can put me down for a whole month. And last year, I got into situations like that, and I could tell, I knew where it was coming from. It was because I was pushing myself too hard. So I think that even if you are a wife and a mother and the best sibling, and you have to be the best employee at work, you should put off time to just be. I have read articles about like single mothers or even mothers who come together and take turns babysitting children, so that this weekend we are leaving them at your house, so that we get a chance to, even if it's to sleep, just sleep. It's a luxury for many people. Or take a trip out of town, or get to hang with friends, just one night out that you've not done in a very long time. And I think that's something that's very important. On a personal level, Sunday is my day off, no matter what, unless the house is on fire. I don't want to know. After church, that's it, phone off, and that's my personal time. So I think that rest is a component that we often ignore, and yet it's not only does it affect our physical, it also affects our mental health.
Right. So Esther, that's how much you hate exercise. I spoke about exercise and you took it to rest. Okay. But anyway, I find that in the professional world, say, because I'm working, I have 2 jobs, I find that physical fitness is something that takes the back burner with a lot of women. Because you have to take care of your families, you have to take care of your friends, you also have to turn up a little bit, you know. You never really incorporate the time to work out or to get fit. What are some of the ways, Crystal, that you used to, do you incorporate fitness into your lifestyle?
I try.
You try?
I try.
How often?
Okay, new year, new resolutions.
New you.
But I try to do something active at least 3 times a week. I think when it comes to physical fitness, you have to find what works for you. And you can try all kinds of different things. It doesn't have to be the gym. I hate the gym. I think it's so boring and repetitive. Swimming has always been my joy because it calms my mind, and that's when I think very clearly, when I'm going back and forth doing my laps. But sometimes I can't get to the pool. I'm so busy. So much as we're busy as wives and moms and working women, the reality is you have to make time. You have to make time.
True.
So what I do personally is, anyone who lives in my neighborhood might have seen me. I'll get all my 3 kids and we'll go for a walk. And I'm like, they're running. I'm like, no, we have to walk.
Yeah.
Or I'll do some Zumba. I have a few Zumba DVDs. Or I'll dance. We'll put on music. My kids know we might have a little party at home. We'll put on music and we will dance and dance and dance and sweat. So I try to find ways. I'll just go outside and skip a little bit. So I try to find ways that are non-traditional, because not everyone can even afford gym membership or can be part of Weight Watchers. Sometimes people say, I don't have the motivation myself. I need someone else to push me. That might work for you, but then again, I mean, what if the person supposed to push you is even lazier than you? So it's a tricky thing. But there's another thing I do, which not all women will agree with, but I stay away from scales, weighing scales. I will only weigh myself when I am sick and I'm at the doctor's.
Yeah.
Because I talk to other women and they're like, oh my God, I've put on 3
unnecessary
kilos.
pressure.
Yes, I put on 3 kilos in the last week or 2. Every morning you're off and on in that scale. Yeah. And that's a part of wellness, because what are you telling yourself? What is the standard that you're setting for yourself? So physical fitness is about finding what works for you and incorporating it into your lifestyle and, your daily routine.
Now, I don't know if all of you agree with me, but I find that when you feel good, or when you feel like you look good, you kind of feel more relaxed mentally. Do you feel like there's a connection, as Elizabeth, between mental health and physical fitness?
I would say there is definitely a connection, because when it comes to wellness, we mistakenly, when people say, hey, you look healthy, we automatically think, hey, maybe I'm now in shape and that sort of thing. But wellness is a whole package. You can't talk about wellness and ignore the physical bit of it, or the mental bit of it, or emotional bit. For example, if you're going through a breakup, or your emotions are not in the right place, like, it will affect you, like, on the whole. And I just want to share a resource. In the Queen's Young Leaders Program, they shared this book that they told us we have to keep rereading. And interestingly, it applies to so many different sectors of life. It's called The Art of Saying No. So it doesn't mean that you see an opportunity and you say no, like you keep saying no to things. It just means you need to learn to say no to other things, just so you can say yes to yourself more. Thinking of the African culture, when I go home, it's like I've gone to get fattened up. It's like you just woke up and Mommy's like, Liz, come and drink some porridge. You've just drunk the porridge. It's like, have some bread. Like, in African culture, people are always shoving food down your throat. Yeah. And it's lunchtime in like 1 hour, and it's like, I don't want to eat. Hey, what are you trying to say? Like, there is this whole, you need to eat, like they are always shoving food down your throat. And I learned that when you do it politely, like when you figure out a way to say no to things that you're not going to affect you later, and you say yes to yourself, it helps you physically, mentally, emotionally, all that different.
That's very moving. Say yes to yourself. Yes. Yeah. It's about lunchtime, so I think I'm not trying to shove food down your throat. I'm just saying, putting it out there. So, Tiba, you mentioned that one of your biggest support systems is your husband.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yes.
But not a lot of women don't have that, you know? Speaking for myself. Hi, single guys. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But do you feel like support systems are necessary to foster wellness in women? Maybe from a sister or from a friend or a brother, you know. I'm going to ask Shalom.
I absolutely believe that support systems are important. I actually learned this when I moved to the US, you know, not having family there and I realized that I had to create new physical connections, not just calling people over here, you know, over the phone. I had to have physical connections that would help me, especially being in a new country. You know, you can get depression, you can, you know, have hard times. When I became a mother, I had postpartum depression, and it was so hard. And I realized that with the help of my mother-in-law, with the help of my husband, everything became easier. And one other support system people don't think about is not only your family and friends, but other like professionals can help you as well. Because at the end of the day, I know it's hard to hear this, but at the end of the day, your family is not your therapist. At the end of the day, your family is not your therapist. And sometimes you carry a lot of weight that you need to give it to someone, a third party who does not know you, to help you figure it out. So yes, I do believe it's important.
Right. Esther?
Yes, it's definitely important, especially because, like we've been reiterating, a lot of women think they can do it all. And it's not our fault, yeah? From a young age, we are told that, yes, you're supposed to hold everyone, and in the end, you forget to do it for yourself. And I think that there are so many relationships that we take for granted. You might have friends and you think, oh, this is for the fun times, and yet when something is really going on, no one around you actually knows, because you're still keeping up that face, you're smiling. They know you're the go-to person. Oh, Liz is the one who will give us cheer, but Liz also needs some cheer in her own life, yeah? Why should she be the one to carry you at all times? You always hear about the strong friend who's going through a lot, and no one is talking to the strong friend. So I'll agree about the need to speak to a professional. I have a semi-personal story. We run an internship program, and yeah, they're all fun, young university students who we think, you know, what problems do they have? Coursework, you know? Yeah. You've not yet seen the world. And so we took it for granted, but I knew that in 2018, one of the things that I wanted to do for the organization was to get a therapist that anyone could go to at all times. Yeah. It's really expensive. That's one of the things that we don't really talk about. Everyone says, yeah, find someone to talk to, but the costs are ridiculous. So when I looked through all that, I was like, okay, let me try to get someone who will do this work pro bono. I remember I even contacted Liz, and even that was impossible. So I said, my human resource is as important as the work that we do. So if I can't invest in them, then what am I doing? So I said, okay, I'll find someone no matter how much they ask for. And we found a therapist, and just like 3 days into it, one of my interns tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
And it was a very rude awakening, because luckily we had paired them up with mentors, and she was able to talk to her mentor and not even her own family. So the people at home didn't know that she was overdosing on the pills. And finally, when she got out of it and woke up, she called her mentor, who then called me. So she has been going through counseling for the past few months, and she's getting better, but this story could have ended very differently.
That's true.
And so just the fact that she had that mentor, the mentor could talk to me, that was a support system that she didn't have with her friends. And even when I speak to her today, she tells me none of her friends knows anything, absolutely nothing. They still think, oh, she's the fun, loving girl that she is, but inside she's broken.
And that's usually the case.
Exactly.
The case is we wear this face that the public sees, but then deep down inside, we're definitely
Yes.
hurting.
And God
Crystal-
forbid anything happens, we're like, oh, but she was so happy.
Yeah, like
I
just spoke to her the other day.
Yeah,
That's how
so-
it always goes. Crystal, you want to
I
say
wanted to just add a little bit to that because we're talking about support networks and how important it is to have either a partner or friends who are supportive, but we're forgetting to talk about the people who have negative, influence in your life. I have learned with time that you must set boundaries, and I think as women, this is a word we must embrace and say every morning and repeat. Boundaries are so important. Personally, my character is people talk to me, and over the years, even in my workplace, I was everyone's mom, confidant, and I realized over time whenever someone had an issue, they'd come and talk to me about it. An issue at home, an issue even with parents, they'll come and talk to me. And that, I am very happy to do that because I feel that's my gift, to be able to give of myself. But then I started to realize I was letting it into my own life. So I'm worrying about you, I'm worrying about you, I'm worrying about you. I'm thinking, how can I solve everyone's problems? How can I help every single person? And then what about me? So you have to set boundaries sometimes. You can help, but you must have a little bit left for yourself. And then also, when it comes to family, you don't choose your family, but family can be extremely negative. So again, boundaries. You have to sit down and think about the people you spend time with, the people in your life, your friends. I mean, are they the kind of people you tell them you want to do something and they break it down? Yeah. And at the end of a conversation, you're left with doubt and fear.
Yeah.
You have to think about these interactions.
Somebody once said to me, don't talk to people, negative people. They have a problem for every solution.
True.
So that's...
So you have to be mindful, and
a lot.
it may be losing friendships, it may be, taking time off from family members, but you have to decide who you allow into your space.
Yes.
And what what energy you allow into your life.
That's true, that's true. 2019 resolutions, cut them off. So, Elizabeth, Esther actually spoke about something that I was going to come to in terms of affording these professionals. Shalom said, your family is not your therapist. That's unfortunate. My family has suffered. They need to bill me at this point. But a lot of the times we say, yes, get professional help, but is it really accessible, affordable? Where do I start,
Okay, thank you for that wonderful question. So to share maybe a bit more about myself, I started an initiative called Clear Your Mind, which raises awareness for mental health and connects people who are dealing with mental health issues to professional help. And I can't say that this is what I always wanted to do with my life, but in 2016, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritties, but I'll just say I was in a pit so deep, and I just kept digging, like trying to get out of the pit. That's what most of us do. Like you get into a pit and you think, I'm going to get out of it, and unintentionally you're digging, yet you need a ladder. So I was very depressed, suicidal, and that whole hula baloo. And I'm very thankful that someone noticed and decided, you know what? This girl is in denial. We are going to get her help, whether she needs it or not. Like, I needed it, but most people, when you have a mental health issue, especially depression, and especially us women, because, superwoman and stuff, you keep saying, I'll get better. I'll do this instead. I'll talk to my friend. But you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So trying to connect to a professional was it was hard in the sense that when you decide, yes, I need help, I've admitted I'm no longer in denial, where do you go? Who do you ask? Who knows any psychiatrist? Who has any phone numbers? So I realized there was that gap. It's not enough to just talk about, find help when you need it, when I don't know where to go, who to even ask. So at Clear Your Mind, we've built a database of mental health service providers, and becoming a psychiatrist or becoming a mental health professional is also expensive, because first you have to become a doctor and then you specialize in psychiatry. So you'll find that it's not that they're trying to pay themselves back, but their bills to be met and that kind of thing. But there are also people who are proper professionals that are providing these services for free or for near nothing. It's just that people are not aware that that help is available. Butabika Hospital, because of how everyone talks about it, like it's very stigmatized, but there is state of the nation, like there is help there. But when you tell someone, let's go to Butabika, it's like, are you trying to say I'm crazy? So what Clear Your Mind does is we get these professionals and connect them directly to you. And then when you're comfortable enough and you're no longer stigmatizing yourself so much, then you can maybe like go into the physical facility. But I feel the onus falls upon all of us to continue trying to break that stigma surrounding mental health. Because if we keep talking about it, then we are not so much victimized by it. So the help is available, and oh yeah, we updated the database. So we have some that provide it for free. The only disadvantage would be you have to either meet them in Butabika or Mulago, but the help
and I
is
think
available.
that's a small price to pay considering what you're going to get.
Yeah, that's true.
So we have some of the questions and from the audience. Somebody wants to know, very, very valid question here. At what point do I know I need professional help? Are there any warning signs?
Where to start? I think if you get to a point, someone talked about sleep and rest, how important that is. If you get to a point where you're not sleeping, I mean, that is like a glaring warning sign, I truly believe. If you find that you cannot go to sleep because either you're stressing about something, you're going over it again and again, you're waking up in the middle of the night, that I feel is like a glaring sign that something is off. Because you need to have some kind of peace with yourself and in your life to be able to have a restful night's sleep. And life without sleep is hard.
You can actually go crazy. Tiba.
The other thing, the other place that you'd find yourself in that you would realize you need help is there's this thing, the common migraines, right? As long as you find yourself in a position where you cannot go a day without that medication, you know you need help. As long as you cannot find yourself getting out of bed without that pill, or it could even be something as small as a painkiller. As long as you cannot push through the day without that pill, then you need help.
Yeah. Sure. Esther, you want to say something?
I'll wait.
Okay. For me, it's if your behaviors start to change, because us as people, we find ways to cope with our situations. Sometimes it's eating, sometimes it's oversleeping. When you feel like your body is starting to change, your behaviors are starting to change, you need to look, why am I behaving differently than I was 1 month ago, 2 weeks ago, and look at your environments and your mind and see, is it clear? Also look at your body, because many times stress manifests in the physical. So if you see, maybe sometimes you're gaining unnecessarily weight, you're breaking out and stuff like that, you need to look at what's causing this. Sometimes it's our mind and stress. Yeah.
I say you wanted to say something.
Yeah, Crystal spoke about not being able to rest, but then there's also not being able to get up. So you sleep, and even sleep is right at that point, it's your solution, because you're trying to run away from the world. So you wake up in the morning, you're like, not today, the next day, not today, next thing you know, it's an entire week. And I think it also comes hand in hand with, like, sometimes you have really high highs and then really low lows, yeah? So you're very excited for 1 minute and, oh my God, my friends, next thing you know, I just want to die. Can I get out of this world? And human interactions are people that you thought made you happy, your friends, your family, now you're just almost disgusted, yeah? It's repugnant just to look at them. And then you just want to be alone, yeah? And then it comes back to what Shalom has said, because either you will overeat or not eat at all, yeah? Either you will just be all over the place or not anywhere at the same time. I think those are signs that something is going wrong and you need to check it.
Also, you'll find that usually self-motivation is great, but there is this self-motivation where it's not motivation actually, it's convincing yourself, trying to convince yourself. You're constantly telling yourself, I'll get through it, I'll be okay. You're on the verge of tears and you don't know why. Like, we are interconnected, mind, body, and soul. And if you care to listen, your core will tell you, like, you know you're not okay, and just find the help.
Yeah. Another question here is, how do you refill your cup? I think I need more context, but I guess you can kind of work with it. How do you, I assume this means, how do you pick yourself back up? Yeah? Krista? Sorry, Krista, do you want to?
Well, I guess it's about doing the things that give you joy. Women like to talk about me time. But the me time can be whatever makes you happy. So if you enjoy cooking, you take a moment. If you just need some time to just close your eyes and rest. If you're going to treat yourself to chocolate, I bet, how many women in here have chocolate in their bags? So finding things that make you happy, because the small things that make us happy, give us joy, are different for everyone. But you have to find that to just give back to yourself.
Right. Tiba, you wanted to say something?
The other thing I could add on to Christos is in a situation where some of your stress or depression could have come from social media bullying, postpartum depression, or you're not doing well at work, or something is just not going right with your boss. It's okay to take a moment and close all that out.
Thank you so much. All of those resolutions are definitely, I wish I was jotting them down. I'm not serious. I'll get a recording. But just to close off this conversation, I'm going to leave you with mine for 2019. Still, I got it from that book, The Power of Now. I encourage everybody to read it. And basically what they say in that book is most of our problems come from either worrying about what's going to happen in the future or stressing about something that already happened. But you need to live in the moment. Live now. Like right now. How are you feeling? Are you feeling great? Okay, then just bask in that moment for now. Forget about, because you worry about something and you don't really have control over it. So what's the point? You're stressing yourself out for nothing. So I feel like we should just be worry-free, and that kind of helps you mentally as well. Apparently, it is a tradition for the ladies on the wellness panel to do a group hug, so we're going to have to do that. If you will rise.
All right, thank you very much to our panelists right there. Now, because lunch is almost getting ready, we're going to rush through this one. Hi, Malaika. It's good to see you. Looking very well. Have you posted on Instagram? Not yet, eh? Snapchat. Eh? She's the queen of Instagram, my friend, not even me. But let me tell you, social media is both positive and negative. You've got to learn how to balance it all out. Now, I don't want to waste so much of your time. There's a video clip that I'd like us to play before I call these speakers to come in and speak for about 5 to 10 minutes. Ladies First 2019, that is why we're here. We're trying to get out of our shells, trying to be the future leaders, trying to be better wives, trying to leave our brands, like a friend of mine, Harry always says, very encouraging gentleman is going to be coming up here, trying to be queens with a purpose, trying to encourage other women to take bigger roles. But I'd like to call upon Jacinta Wamale and Jacint Tamale. Thank you.
I know everybody else has been sitting, but we prefer to stand. Thank you very much for having us. We run Incubo. It's a nonprofit that recently took a group of Masters in Public Health students from National University, a university that is online and mostly based in San Diego, California. I wrote this proposal about 1 year ago. It got approved 6 months ago. And in 6 months, we grew up in the US. We've never had any Ugandan friends. Sorry. We have our family, but we had no contacts. We had no idea where we were going to start. And in 6 months, somehow, some way, with community ties, we were able to put this program together that went into Kamuli Hospital and did maternal health awareness, diabetes awareness, and also hypertension awareness for students, for the hospital and also in all the rural areas. So we did a lot of public health outreach. And in our time, we were able to get an idea of what the community itself needed, and at the same time, give some input and some cultural lessons to the people that we took out.
So I'm Jacent Nalwali Wamala, and as you saw in the video, that was the trip that we had just taken. Our students actually just got on their flights back to the US on Wednesday. So we leave on Monday, and that was our inaugural trip, with our mission being to create global experiences, bridging the gap between Uganda and the US, focused on education, empowerment, and enrichment. And so these students are master students in public health, our ultimate goal being to bring first generation Ugandan youth back to Uganda here, to get in touch with their culture, to see their families, see where they come from, go to their villages, as well as taking youth from here, Uganda, to the US. And so our goal is to have that relationship that is going between, and this is one of the ways in which we have done that. We have gone in the last 6 months from zero to raising $20,000, and thank you, all of which is going straight to programming. And the focus of our talk, right, today is collaboration. You see two of us up here. It's not one. And we both have the same first name. Jacent, Tamale, Wamala. And so at the end of the day, the way that I see it is that we want to be changing our mindset, because I think a lot of the time, women see each other as competition, right? And so we say it's me against you, or there's only one position, now I have to fight you to get ahead of you or to dominate, when that's not the case. That's how we stay away from being able to move to the next level when we're crabs in a barrel, right? So the point is that we need to change our mindset and see each other as allies. How can you support the women in your life, right? So there's peer support, which we are peers, so we support each other in our programming, and then there's also mentorship. And if there's nothing else that you take away from our brief talk, because we know the food is getting ready and I'm sure everyone is hungry, is that one, you want to start. You all have ideas. And I'm sure your ideas were given to you specifically. No one else has that idea. And you need to work on it, because there's people that are waiting for you to benefit from the ideas that you have. So first, start. Second, finding that peer support, which has already been mentioned in the other panels, in order to be able to continue to go when challenges come up. The best way to find peer support is to identify your own obstacles, and then match yourself with someone who complements you.
She is the one
so
who rely on
she's in the medical field.
Okay, well, how do we need to lay this out, whatnot.
She is the one who we rely on programming as far as, okay, well, how do we need to lay this out and whatnot. I have a history in nonprofit work and development, and so she relies on me to cover those areas. So when you're identifying who is a good peer support ally, maybe it's professionally, maybe it's personally, you want to identify and understand where you are weak so they can help you in that area, and understand where you're strong, because it should be a mutually beneficial relationship, and how can you support that person as well so that you're both rising at the same time. Now when you're identifying a mentor, right, you want to be able to ask yourself, what is it that they have that you need to learn from them? Because the best part about mentorship is accelerated growth. Instead of something taking you 1 to 5 years, if you have a mentor, it might take 1 to 3, right? So being able to make those different decisions as far as, who do I have in peer support? How can I support them and they can support me? And who do I need to identify as a mentor? And how do I approach them in a way that is gonna be, because sometimes your mentor is doing it for free, right? So how do you make your mentor proud and do what you have set out to do in order for them to understand that their efforts aren't lost? So you have to also be persistent. Your mentor might be a very busy person, they have a lot on their plate, they might be traveling, and you have to insist. But on the other end, you don't want to drop the ball when you've now tied yourself to certain responsibilities, right? And they also talked about boundaries. What are the boundaries of your mentorship relationship? What are the boundaries of your peer support relationship in order to make sure that you're not necessarily, overstepping, and that they are also not overstepping. And so we'll also have the team send out, we have a worksheet to kind of go through these action items as you process that you can work on after leaving here today in order to identify where you're at and how to go to the next level. Because at the end of the day, to me, we all have ideas that we can share with the world. Had we not worked on the idea, had she not shared her idea and started working on it, then we wouldn't be standing here today.
And ultimately, I just asked that everybody be aggressive. It was a dream of mine. I had no idea how it was going to come to play. It was 2 years ago that I signed a business license. And I was in Peru studying abroad with a professor. And we were just sitting down at dinner, having a casual conversation. And I told her, but why haven't you ever gone to Uganda? She told me, write a proposal. She sent me the proposal. I got it to her 1 week earlier than she needed it. I had to be persistent. I had to show her that I was one notch above whatever she's ever seen before. And even when they got here, I gave them something better than what they got in Peru. And every student was satisfied with what they got. And it just takes a lot of time. It's demanding. I have my master's that I was working on. I have a child that I raise on my own. It's consuming, but you must do what you need to do.
Thank you so much. I've just been reminded something.
I take the honor to introduce our keynote speaker. That is Honorable Victoria Sechtoleto.
Pleasure to have you, our keynote speaker, and I will leave the floor to you and Didan.
Thank you very much. Ladies first. First of all, I really am excited to be here. Basically because, if I'm not mistaken, I'm the oldest. I'm happiest when I'm amongst young people. Whenever I have a function with young people, I get home feeling re-energized. So, thank you very much for having me. Now, I prepared a speech and prepared it, but on second thoughts, I'm like, who needs a speech? The reason I came in early, even if I was told I was going to speak at about 1 o'clock, is that I wanted to get the vibe. I wanted to get to know you a little bit and what it is all about. And now that I know what it is all about, I'm glad I'm not sticking on to the speech. But having said that, I'm going to suggest that I just share a little bit of myself with you, because some of these questions you are asking, some of the answers I have, I don't think anybody else will have them. That is one. Two, I want to comment on what was said earlier by the other panels as I was sitting. One of the things which I want to comment on specifically is about the 7-year-old abused girls. You know, whenever I think about that, I shake, even if it is just in my head. So this Christmas, I've got an assistant who is divorced and left her children somewhere else. So for Christmas, I'm like, you know what? Just bring your family. So she goes and brings them. One of them is a 6-year-old girl. She's the only girl she has. She's a mother of 3, 2 boys and 1 girl aged 6. I've got a gardener, a driver, and all sorts of assistants, most of whom are male. The rule in my house is that the children do not go into the workers' houses. So the only person who is working there, who has got a child, is this mom. Her name is Edsa. So I tell Edsa, those children don't go that side when you are not there. They can only go into your room, they don't go into other rooms. And she looks at me just wondering. The next thing I hear is this 6-year-old girl is calling my gardener, who is about 55, and who is actually a confessed HIV/AIDS positive person. I find this little girl in his room. I really, because you know you have those boundaries. I'm like, whenever I want to talk to the children, I talk to them through the mother, because I don't want to undermine the mother. So I walk quickly to the house and I ask her, where is your daughter? She says, I don't know. I'm like, just go and find her right now. So she looks, then finds her in the gardener's house, room. And I tell her, you know what? I don't want to go violent. I don't want to lose my temper. I'll talk to you later on. To her, she just didn't know why I was so mad. So eventually, after I've calmed down, I'm like, you know what I'm talking about, because you are not a young person. Why? I mean, she's only one kid. The house is big. Why can't she stay in the house? Or if you want, there's not a lot of work here, because it's just me and my husband you are looking after. Why don't you go into the compound and play with your children? But because in Uganda we are not brought up like that, how many